Okay, so imagine the absolute highest seat of spiritual power in the world. For over 2 millennia, the Catholic Church has fiercely guarded its ultimate leadership, passing the papacy through the hands of European, South American, and African leaders. But handing the keys of St. Peter to a citizen of the world's reigning superpower, the United States? No way. That was a line the Vatican...
History holds secrets. Time holds the truth. Welcome to Echoes of Time.
was a line the Vatican was never supposed to cross. In fact, cardinals whispered that it was simply practically impossible. And yet, the impossible literally just became reality. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking the unprecedented, highly secretive political drama that actually led to the election of the very first American Pope.
2,000 years. Think about that for a second. That is exactly how long this unwritten rule stood strong. Giving the papacy to an American just seemed completely unthinkable to the Vatican establishment. I mean, the United States was already the dominant force in global geopolitics, economics, culture, the whole shebang. To hand them the papacy on top of all that, the institutional resistance was massive. It was an absolute historical boundary that nobody thought could be crossed. Until now, right? Because on May 8, 2025, that 2,000-year-old boundary was completely shattered. And what's truly fascinating to me is how incredibly fast it happened. We're talking just 2 days and a mere 4 rounds of voting to rewrite history. But here's what you absolutely need to take away from this. The real story of how this American ascended to the papacy wasn't some clean, divine inevitability. Not at all. It was fiercely political, deeply dramatic, and paved with locked-door secrets that the Vatican honestly never intended for you to know.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The man nobody knew, Robert Francis Prevost.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because you're probably wondering, who exactly broke this ancient rule? Meet Robert Francis Prevost. Honestly, he was kind of a ghost in the Vatican political machine. He wasn't some celebrity cardinal, he wasn't doing television interviews, and he wasn't even listed on the betting markets. Get this, when the senior American cardinals gathered in Rome just before the Conclave, Prevost wasn't even in their group photo. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who is one of the most powerful figures in the American Church, later admitted that when other cardinals came up to him asking about Prevost, Dolan had to honestly say he barely knew the guy. Born in Chicago in 1955, Prevost didn't spend his career climbing the typical corporate ladder of the American Church. Instead, he spent the vast majority of his life working as a missionary in Peru. He speaks fluent Spanish. He has this deep, boots-on-the-ground understanding of the developing world. And because of that, one Vatican insider brilliantly described him as the least American of all the American cardinals. And it turns out that specific, totally unexpected quality was exactly the key needed to unlock the papacy.
Moving right along to Part 2, Chaos in the Sistine Chapel, May 7th, 2025.
To really understand how he won, we have to look at the locked room drama where it all went down. 133 cardinals walked into the Sistine Chapel. The heavy doors shut and were officially sealed. No phones, no internet, complete total lockdown from the outside world. Now, you might be picturing this incredibly solemn, quiet, divine atmosphere, right? Actually, scratch that, it was absolute chaos. Before the voting even began, the environment was tense and just riddled with missteps. Security alarms were randomly blaring inside the chapel. In a massive breach of Vatican law, one cardinal was actually caught with an active secret cell phone hidden in his pocket. And in a highly relatable twist, because their phones were confiscated, several cardinals literally overslept because they didn't have their digital phone alarms. It's such a great reminder that behind all this vast, ancient history are very real, very human moments of disorder.
So, amidst all that chaos, the first ballot takes place, and the results were a total shock. Pretty much everyone in the establishment expected Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's immensely powerful Secretary of State, to take a commanding lead. I mean, he walked into that room with an estimated 40 to 45 secured votes. But he didn't win the first ballot. Instead, a conservative Hungarian cardinal named Peter Erdo took the initial lead, which pushed Parolin all the way down into third place. But rounding out that top 3, you guessed it, Robert Prevost. This unknown missionary had quietly, almost invisibly, secured 20 to 30 votes right out of the gate. Nobody on the outside was watching him, but inside that room, a silent wave was definitely forming.
Which brings us to Part 3, the secret turning point, May 8th.
The narrative truly shifts on the morning of May 8th. And the setting isn't the grand Sistine Chapel anymore. It's the much more mundane Santa Marta guest house where all the cardinals were staying. Over breakfast, the political tide of the entire Catholic Church began to turn. Picture this. Cardinal Dolan is sitting at a table, happily eating a jar of peanut butter that he had specially brought all the way from New York. To his surprise, the unknown Robert Prevost just pulls up a chair and sits right next to him. They share a normal conversation over this incredibly standard American breakfast. Well, that single chat completely changed Dolan's perspective. He later described Prevost as open, engaging, and quietly impressive. It humanized Prevost. The unknown man from the missing photograph suddenly became a tangible, highly likable leader.
But hey, while this peanut butter diplomacy was happening right out in the open, shadow politics were operating behind closed doors. Across hallways and in quiet corners, a secretive coalition was actively forming. They met at the residence of a German cardinal, a gathering they covertly dubbed Casa Marx. Here, a group of more than 20 cardinals orchestrated a major backroom agreement. They looked at the fractured vote from the first day and quietly, but firmly decided Robert Prevost was their guy.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happened next. When voting resumed that afternoon, the shift was seismic. Erdo's early support completely collapsed. Parolin, the expected victor, gained almost no new ground at all. But Prevost, he surged. But guys, it wasn't without unbearable tension. Get this, during the fourth ballot, someone accidentally stuck two pieces of voting paper together, so the entire ballot had to be declared void and painstakingly repeated from scratch. You can only imagine the heart-pounding anxiety in that room. When the recount finally finished, Prevost had 108 votes. That is well past the two-thirds majority needed. The room just erupted in applause, so much so that a clearly frustrated Cardinal Parolin actually had to stand up and remind everyone that the counting wasn't officially over yet.
Part 4. A stunned Vatican, 6:07 p.m.
So, the famous white smoke finally rises above the Sistine Chapel. Across the globe, broadcasters and Vatican insiders alike fully assumed the name about to be called was Pietro Parolin. In fact, senior Curia officials had already prepared their celebrations for a Parolin victory. The establishment thought they had it in the bag. But then, the name Robert Francis Prevost echoed across St. Peter's Square. Just let that sink in for a second. The reaction inside the Vatican's halls of power was visceral. One insider account described the senior officials as stunned, frozen, defeated. The bitterness of the old guard losing their control was immediate. One Monsignor, clearly trying to recover from the massive political upset, was heard muttering in Italian, "We will make him one of us." They were already plotting to absorb and control him right then and there. But they really underestimated Prevost. He wasn't caught off guard at all. Unlike other candidates who prefer to just improvise their first words, Prevost had quietly sat in his room that very morning and written out prepared notes. You know, just in case. He was completely ready to lead on his own terms.
Finally, Part 5. The New AI Revolution. Pope Leo XIV.
So, at 6:07 p.m., an unknown missionary officially became the spiritual leader of 1.4 billion Catholics. He took the name Leo XIV, specifically honoring the Pope who guided the Church through the Industrial Revolution. Why? Because Prevost believes we are facing an entirely new revolution: artificial intelligence. He sees a future that desperately needs urgent ethical and spiritual guidance in the face of technology that could literally alter humanity itself. Now, the Vatican tried their best to keep the political machinations, the secret cell phones, the Casa Marx coalition, and those bitter rivalries completely hidden from us. But the secret rise of Leo XIV is out. A missionary from Chicago, armed with a global perspective and an eye squarely on the technological horizon, now sits on the throne of St. Peter. Which leaves us with a fascinating, absolutely critical question as we wrap up this explainer. As we stand on the brink of an unprecedented technological shift, what does an American Pope, forged in secrecy and focused on the future, actually mean for the age of AI? Keep that in mind as history unfolds right in front of us. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep exploring.
The truth is always older than we think. Subscribe, because the next echo is already waiting for you.